Good morning, beautiful people. ¿Cómo están? My name is Gracia Martinez Rosas. I serve as the Deputy Executive Director of United We Dream. We are the largest immigrant youth-led network in the country. I am the daughter of Luis and Elia Martinez. I'm undocumented, unafraid, and we are all here to stay. We are here with over 200,000 petitions from citizens from all across the country to say loud and clear that Congress needs to defund the deportation force right now.
Yes. Yes.
Right now, there are 15,000 children held in border detention camps. There are 400,000 immigrants, some of our moms and our dads and our husbands and our loved ones, who are detained every year. Our families are being hunted down, and yet Trump and Republicans want even more and more money. Every autocrat needs a police force to take out the people that they don't agree with. Donald Trump, ICE, and CBP, they're made for each other. Trump wants to make sure that there's gonna be more money in this budget deal, and unfortunately, some Democrats have put up plans to give more money to the deportation force too. They say that that's just how it's done in Washington, that we just have to take it. Do we agree with that?
No.
Do we agree with that?
No.
This is a question of math and morality. The more money, the more pain, the more tears, the more sorrow. This is a matter of life and death for all of us. Esta es una cuestión de la vida y la muerte para nosotros. How many people here have been locked in a detention camp? ¿Cuánta gente aquí ha sido detenido en un centro de detención? Levante la mano y álcela. How many people here have a loved one who has been detained or deported by ICE and CBP? ¿Cuántos de nosotros tenemos a un amado que ha sido detenido o deportado por ICE and CBP? Levante las manos. We are here, America. Our moms and our dads are being killed in detention centers. Our children are being shot by CBP agents. This is a matter of life and death for us, and Congress must defund ICE and CBP. Right now, artist 21 Savage, Manuel, Jefferson's dad, and too many of our fathers are locked up in detention camps. Our mothers, our friends are being stolen away and disappeared from us. But you know what? We're not alone. We are joined by the new powerful women's squad, the congresswomen that are I call them the badass squad, and they're here. And we are joined by millions in a growing movement with groups like the Defund Hate Coalition with DWN, AFSC, Bend the Arc, Church World Services, Credo Action, Daily Coast, and some people that you'll hear from today. We are here with one voice so that people don't get it twisted. We want to say, cut the money from the deportation force and cut it now.
Yeah.
Are you ready? We are here to say that we have come too far, that we have traveled and walked miles to get into this country, and we will not turn back around. We will flood the streets with justice because we know that we are freedom bound. With that, we're going to welcome Representative Ocasio-Cortez to share some words with us.
Sí se puede. 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 Okay.
Bienvenidos a todos, buenos días a todos. Gracias por venir, gracias por todo su trabajo a tener este momento, a llevar este momento. Thank you everyone for being here in this moment, for making this presence, making your presence known here, for making this happen. You know, this is one of the most urgent moral issues and crises that we have in America right now. This is not a political issue. Children dying in detention centers should not be a partisan concern. It should be a universal concern for every American in the United States. You know, earlier this week, we were here and we were hearing inside that Capitol, president said something. He said and spoke of the idea that he liked, quote unquote, legal immigration. But that is a lie. The president does not like any form of immigration. He has been cutting down and imposing restrictions on legal forms, on the diversity visa lottery, on family reunification, and so on. He's ending TPS. He's ending DACA protections for dreamers. And in doing so, he is taking away the documented status of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Americans. In doing so, he is criminalizing a population of people in the United States. And now he is asking for $5 billion to continue to militarize and weaponize a force that has zero accountability, whose director and whose secretary has no idea when she goes in front of a hearing how many children are dying in her own care under her own watch, and they have the audacity to ask for more money to fund that? I don't think so. No! Not only will we not agree to fund that, but we're here to say that an agency like ICE, which repeatedly and systematically violates human rights, does not deserve a dime.
That's right.
They do not deserve a dime. Until they can prove that they are honoring human rights, until they can make a good faith effort to expand and embrace immigrants, the immigrants in this nation that have always been a part and have always been a core element of American democracy. Until they can prove good faith to an American ideal, they do not deserve any resources for their radical agenda. We have to have respect for children, respect for families, respect for human rights, and respect for the right of human mobility. Because it is a right.
That's right.
It is a right.
That's right.
Because we are standing on native land, and Latino people are descendants of native people. And we cannot be told and criminalized simply for our identity or our status. Period. I will not commit $1, not $1, to an agency who died when they were trusted to take care of Jacqueline Cal.
That's right.
I will not give $1 to a secretary who does not care about her life and does not care to investigate a child's death. And I will not give $1 to black box detention facilities that think that some people in this country are deserving of constitutional protections and that others are not. We are a nation and a land of laws. Not just people, some people are subject to laws and others are not. We are a land of laws. And when we are a land of laws, what that means is that every person that steps foot on this soil deserves the consideration of due process. They deserve the protections. They deserve to have access to our Bill of Rights. And that is what makes this nation special. That is what makes America special. Not who is here, but what we are.
That's right.
And I'm very glad to be joined here by a wave of women and a wave of new members who understand that moral clarity of this issue. I will not compromise the lives of children, and neither will my colleagues. That is at the end of the day what this is about. And I will not make a political compromise so that just a few kids less die. I will not make a compromise so that we unjustly deport just a few less. No, we will stop these practices altogether, and we will not stop until they are ceased and fully held accountable. Yeah. And so for that,
That's right.
No more.
I'm mad, y'all. I am mad.
That's right.
So with that, I'm going to introduce my sister, my colleague. You know, you'll hear from several sisters in service, as Sister Ayanna Presley likes to say. And so I have the honor of introducing Ilhan Omar.
I can feel that. I can feel it. I can feel your anger, your passion.
The rage.
I can feel. And that's what we need to do. We need to feel the pain, the struggle, the hopes and the dreams of the people who this president likes to demonize. There's a famous poem that a Somali poet wrote, and in it says, "No one leaves for the mouth of the shark unless the mouth of the shark is safer than home." And for many of these families who are coming to our border, they are leaving situations where it is safer for them to risk starvation, to risk possible rape, to risk possible death, because they know that the smallest hope of survival is much more bigger and better than just standing still and waiting to not have an opportunity to start anew. I know this feeling very well because my family did the same exact thing. In the dead of night, we decided we weren't just going to wait in our home and wait for militia to find us, wait for us to starve, wait for my sisters, my aunties, and the women in our family to get raped. But we were going to risk the walk to cross the border into Kenya. We were going to risk the starvation to find a new life. We were going to risk it all. And so I understand the pain, the fear, the struggles. I cry every time I see a little girl standing in the desert waiting to get processed into this country, because I remember what that felt like. But the difference between what is happening to some of these little girls and me is that I didn't have a cage waiting for me. I had an open arm, people with moral clarity awaiting us and saying, "You've been through a lot. Here's your new home. You're our new neighbor. You need water. You need food." Yes. Yeah. And in this country, in the United States, people are not welcomed that way. They are separated, unprocessed. They are detained and tortured. And we can't continue to allow that to happen. At least not under our watch. Budgets really are a statement of our moral values. And in this Congress, we cannot have a budget that does not further our values. We have a value of upholding human rights. We have a value of welcoming immigrants. We have a value of tolerance and acceptance. And we can't lose it today to a president and administration that is morally corrupt. This administration and this president are truly morally corrupt.
Yes.
They don't see people, they see dollars,
Right.
they see campaigns, they see cheers, they see rallies.
That's right.
We see humans. because most of us have been the invisible in our communities. We know what it means to jump out of policies and to recognize the faces behind them. And so that is what we are committed to doing here. This is going to be the Congress that sees beyond the policy.
That's right.
That sees the faces of the people. My sister Alexandria is correct, because when she says this president does not care for legal immigration, for him it is just a talking point. It's a dog whistle. It is something for him to say that allows for him to continue his detrimental policies that will morally bankrupt us.
That's right.
Because we know that he has a Muslim ban. We know that he is not interested in having families reunify legally. He's canceling the temporary statuses of thousands of Americans who have built a life here for 18, 20, 30 years, who no longer have a home outside of our borders. He also seems to never really understand what it means to seek asylum. Seeking asylum at a border is the most legal thing anyone can do. And that's what most of these people are doing. They're coming to our border, asking for their human rights to be recognized to seek asylum. And we are welcoming them. We are welcoming them to torture, detention, separation, and more pain or heartache. So today and every day until this nightmare ends, this stain of our country's history ends, we say, not under our watch.
That's right.
So now I'm going to turn over to Anna, who has a family member, a friend, who's gone through this process, because it is necessary for us to continue to say the names, to see the faces, to center the people who are truly going through this struggle, who for them it's not just a headline, but a daily lived experience. So, Anna.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ana Martinez. I'm with CASA, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Roxana. So about 9 years ago, Roxana was having lunch outside of her workplace, and the police officer approached her and started asking regarding her immigration status. At this point, he arrested her and decided to call immigration enforcement. This was the beginning of her civil rights case, because you cannot be arrested simply for being and looking Latina. She did nothing wrong. The only thing she did was have her lunch outside of her work. For the last 9 years, she has been in compliance with ICE. She's been going into ICE check-ins and doing everything she was supposed to do. But she won her civil rights case about a few months back. And when she went to her ICE check-in on January, they decided to detain her. Not because she did anything wrong, simply because they could. She was released this Monday, but her battle with ICE continues. She wanted to be here today, but she's still healing physically and emotionally from her experience inside ICE. She did not receive the proper medical attention, and she's still recovering. Roxana is a wonderful woman that when you meet her, she's filled with so much joy, and she's so friendly, and she just wants to hug you. But hearing her experience of what was going on in the ICE detention was heartbreaking. From the days that she went without sleep, to the food that was making her sick, to just feeling physically ill. Last night when I talked to her, she said, I still have nightmares from my experience being detained. I still hear the chains of my arms and legs being chained up and the doors locking behind me. But the most painful part was being away from her children. President Trump claims he knows our community, but we do not fulfill his stereotype. I ask you to close your ears to the rumors and open your eyes to the reality.
Yeah.
But we are the immigrant community.
Yeah, that's right.
And Roxana is an example of the people being impacted by his policy. She's a strong mom, and all she wants to do is provide for her kids. We stand with Roxana.
Yes.
Right, Roxana. And once she regains her strength, she will be standing with us.
Yes.
We ask Congress to have a heart, to think about the families that are being impacted at the border, and the families are being separated inside our country. This has to end. So I'm just going to ask one more thing from our group. Todos somos Roxana! Todos somos Roxana! We are all Roxana! We are all Roxana! Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, otro aplauso para nuestra hermana de casa. También vamos a dar gracias. So we want to thank, because we are not alone, we want to thank our partners at Indivisible. Where our partners at Indivisible? At CBD? At the Detention Watch Network? And Make the Road New Jersey? And who's the partners from Move On? We want to thank the people whose families are at stake right now. Las familias que han venido aquí a decir sus historias. Háganle una bulla. Es un honor darle la bienvenida a la congresista Rashida. Ella es una amiga. She's a friend. She's a fighter. We're so happy and honored that she can join us today. So, Congresswoman, make us
Isn't she wonderful?
Yes.
Yes. I've known her, God, she still seems young to me always, but I know you've grown and your courage really inspires so many of us. Even as a member of Congress, you fuel so much of the work that we need to do, and so thank you so much for being at the forefront. Yes, I really appreciate it. You know, today I want to uplift, as I'm talking about, I want to uplift Jacqueline. I want to uplift Roxana, who's a trans woman who was seeking asylum in the United States, both of which were killed, literally died in detention centers in our own country. As we talk about immigration, we went from talking about an American dream to a nightmare, to dividing families, separating children, putting them in cages, to deaths, to so much inhumane conditions in our detention centers that I hear about every single day. Even as a former immigration attorney, I would hear about not access to medical care, all of the things that I think are so important. I grew up in probably one of the most diverse communities in Detroit, in Southwest Detroit, 20 different ethnicities. You know, after 2003, things changed. When ICE came, it was literally, it wasn't anything going on at the border. They were going through our neighborhoods, patrolling, actually having checkpoints at certain main streets, asking people for IDs, people running around our park, getting held up and saying, let me see your green card. ICE completely transformed my neighborhood that I grew up in into some sort of military zone. It hasn't made us safer. It actually put us more in jeopardy, more people afraid to speak up, more people afraid to reach out to people like myself and others for help. It actually has hurt us more. I don't know about you, as a Muslim in America, as a child of immigrants, I don't want to wait for an apology. Because that's what's going to come, because they're going to realize what they did was wrong. It was human rights violations. I'm tired of it. Just like our black Americans in this country are still waiting.
That's right.
And so I'm really tired of us sitting back and saying, well, we got to get the information. Guess what? We already know people died. That should be enough for us to act and to say that no more money towards an institution that is demonizing and criminalizing our immigrant neighbors.
That's right.
We don't want a system that basically has taken away the core values of the American dream. And I talk about this because when I came into this, when I came with my mother in her womb, I remember my mother coming here and just, imagining the opportunities for her daughter. Never could I imagine her having to go through what Jacqueline Mother is going through today. And so not on our watch was as mothers, we will not allow children to die while we are in power here. We will not vote for any more DHS funding that hurts our children, hurts our immigrant neighbors. And I'll tell you, I'm emotional about this because right before I got up here, somebody from United We Dream told me about Manuel, who's 41, but about my age, who has 2 children, Jefferson and Bryant, who's been in detention for a year away from his family. Why? Because he wants to live here. Because he wants the same opportunities that anybody else would want. He's not a criminal. He shouldn't be treated that way. We have an immigration process that has been broken for 3 decades. Instead of trying to campaign on walls and things that are not going to bring this country together, we should be campaigning on how to fix our immigration system that brings people together. I want you to know what you do today. Don't think it doesn't matter. It will, because you know what? I'm telling you, as an organizer who's been talking about Medicare for all, talking about all this stuff, now you have people in Congress that ran on that issue. And run on that issue. So don't think when we run on abolishing ICE or running on defunding ICE that criminalizes our immigrant neighbors, criminalizes any person of color. To be honest, I have seen it over and over again that ICE stops people in my community. They literally take parents in front of schools in my community, and I've seen it firsthand as a state representative, and now as a congresswoman, I hear it from my residents. And so I want Manuel to know, as he's sitting in the detention center, that he should be proud, because today his son is here to speak for him. And Jefferson, you tell your father there are incredible women in Congress now that understand what it means to be a parent, that understands what it means when every single day he's away from you. And so just know we're going to have so much courage. Thank you for giving him a voice. Thank you for being here. And with that, I want to hear from this man, this young boy that probably right now, all he wants is his father to be back. A man that would never, ever, ever, ever hurt anybody and should not be treated as some sort of criminal. Thank you so much, Jefferson, for being here. Thank you so much for your courage.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. On behalf of my father, Manuel Armando Arti. He is an Ecuadorian immigrant, and he has only done good for my family, never abandoned us, always provided for us, gets up early in the morning to work. But one day when he got up early to go work to leave my mom, he was stopped by immigration on October 31st. Me and my brother were going to school, and my brother got a phone call from my dad saying that he got stopped by ICE. The whole day, I could not have gone through school without thinking about what's happening to my dad. My life was turned around. He is no longer by my side. I've been away from him for a year and 4 months. I've got to the point where I'm tired of just being without him. And I'm so thankful for the support of representatives that we have in the government that is going to help all of us, all of our immigrants. My dad is not a criminal. he is here to give me a better future. If he goes, my future goes. If he's being deported, my future is being deported. I only have here my mom and my brother. My mom now works 2 jobs, my brother works a job, and now I work. I try to focus in school, but to balance work and school is so hard, difficult, stressful. It's just the fact that he's never with me anymore, that he can't be with me, even if he tried. He will never abandon his family, never. And now that he's taken away from his family, all we could do is cry and pray. Hope he comes home. And as seen through history in this country, change is possible.
That's right.
That's right. Sí se puede.
If slavery was abolished, so can I be abolished. I just want to give a final thanks to all the women in Congress, Senate, everybody that's supporting immigrants. Thank you. It means so much to me from the bottom of my heart. You don't imagine how much I suffered, how much I cried every day, just waiting for like a spark of chance and the government to help me, to help my family and many families like me. Thank you.
Now we're proud to welcome Representative Presley, who has been a champion, has led a letter making very clear the position of her, the Badass Crew, and we're just so honored to have you here, Representative.
Sí se puede.
I need a little space here.
I do have some prepared remarks, not because, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I do have prepared remarks, which I hope to get to. I brought prepared remarks not because I don't know what to say, but because I have too much to say. And wanted to, as a lawmaker, as a stateswoman, demonstrate some restraint up here. I'm just coming from the National Prayer Breakfast, where the occupant of this White House spoke of the sanctity of life and family values. Hypocrisy. What you see before you is trauma. Broken hearts because of broken families and a broken system, a systemic failure. At the State of the Union, I brought Stephanie Panada as my guest. She is a junior at the University of Massachusetts, Boston in Dorchester, the Massachusetts 7th, which I represent. Her family is from El Salvador. Her father is an asylum seeker and her mother a TPS holder. She pleaded with me to not allow her life, her family, or her future to be used as a bargaining chip. And said, you might save the dreamers, but if you save me and abandon my family and my community, then I don't want that kind of freedom.
That's right.
That's right.
And Stephanie is demonstrating greater courage, selflessness, and dare I say, even patriotism, and a true commitment to the sanctity of all lives and all families. More than the occupant of this White House. She was my guest and excited to be a part of a historic event in this venerable institution as my guest, and I'm equally proud to be a part of this august body when our country is at such a crossroads. But during the State of the Union address, as I looked to her in the gallery, I felt sick. And embarrassed. And shame. And when I asked her at the end, after she had sat through and tolerated so much divisive rhetoric and emboldening, unapologetic racist policies, the lifting up of a monument of hate, and she said to me that she felt betrayed, that the president sees her family, she and her family, as monsters, and she said she felt dumb. Dumb because she had a different expectation for the evening. This is not only about bargaining people's lives and futures, breaking hearts, breaking families, creating trauma. We're bargaining on people's hope. And that's really what our job is in this moment. This is about affirming the humanity and the dignity of people.
That's right.
And that should not be a radical notion. But in this climate, it is very radical to affirm and to assert and to uplift the dignity and the humanity of others, of immigrants who are being criminalized and vilified by this administration. In this moment, when people are upset and crying, I can come up and I can comfort them, but there are millions more that I'll never get to comfort or to wrap my arms around and to offer solace. And that is why we need laws that will do that.
Yeah.
So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to get through some of my prepared remarks here.
Yes.
Because these points are important to be made. We are here to draw a line in the sand. In the name of love and in the name of justice. We have a task put before this institution to negotiate a DHS package in 3 weeks' time. We have an obligation to make our workers whole, to prevent another rogue shutdown by this administration.
That's right.
And to demonstrate moral leadership. As we take on this task, I implore my colleagues, although we are in the practice of negotiating and compromise as responsible lawmakers, what we can and must never do is compromise our values.
That's right.
We cannot compromise our values because of mothers like Angelica Rebecca Gonzalez Garcia and her 8-year-old daughter, separated from each other at the Mexico-United States border in May 2018. Angelica is seeking asylum in my home state of Massachusetts after suffering severe abuse and trauma in Guatemala. After enduring unimaginable terrors, Angelica and her daughter arrived here seeking protection. Instead, they were met with cruelty. Angelica had never spent a day apart from her daughter until immigration officers apprehended them at the border and literally pried her child from her arms. During their very limited conversations since, she has learned that her daughter has sustained injuries and has battled illnesses while in immigration detention. As I learned of Angelica's story, I couldn't help but to think of my own daughter, Cora, 10 years old, a few months older than Angelica's daughter. An age where you're coming of age with an open heart and just beginning to dream of what the future could hold. Imagine what that little girl thought of on a cold concrete floor, alone in a country defined for her with concrete and steel, fleeing a home plagued by domestic violence and terror. We need to be clear-eyed about our moral leadership and steadied by the stories like Angelica's and like Stephanie's. I ask my colleagues for their solidarity and support to enter into the DHS Conference Committee process with clarity. Time and again, this administration has put profits before people and rhetoric before the lives of immigrant children.
That's right.
It is clear that we must reduce and not increase funds to DHS. A Republican-controlled Congress has already sharply increased DHS spending without any clear justification. The deal reached by the conference committee should not allocate one more dollar to this department or to the ICE and CBP agencies. There are forums within these halls where we can and must rapidly rein in the inhumane behavior of these agencies. In the meantime, not one more dollar. This administration continues to use DHS funding as a slush fund. We continue to hear through transfers or reprogramming of funds. This administration is increasing detention programs and investment in ineffective policies. This practice violates the very fidelity of our public resources. The conference committee should prohibit transfers and reprogramming authorities. We need stronger accountability. And as I close, DHS has a failed track record of missing congressional deadlines, including when recently required to report on deaths in custody.
That's right.
They have missed deadlines to list ICE detention facilities and to implement PREA-mandated protections against sexual assault in custody. The Department of Homeland Security should be taken up as a separate appropriations bill and accompanied by strong statutory language that saves lives and increases accountability. In the meantime, DHS must be held accountable, not rewarded for its actions, which include family separation, barriers to asylum, and the deaths of 2 children in Border Patrol custody. I want to thank my sisters in service, my colleagues Congresswoman Tlaib, Omar, and Ocasio-Cortez, who have joined with me to put forward a Dear Colleague letter asserting our values. The nation is watching. We cannot fail our communities. We cannot fail mothers like Angelica. We cannot fail the immigrant communities that make up the vibrant fabric of this nation. To do so would be a betrayal of our beliefs and the faith that people have placed in us.
Thank you, Congresswoman Presley. Up next, we have, we're so lucky to be able to have the most amazing partners in the entire world. And you'll hear from Leah Greenberg from Indivisible and Rana from MoveOn.org. So Leah, give a shout out to Leah.
Hi everyone. It's so good to be here with you today. And I want to start by saying that we stand in solidarity with Roxana, with Manuel, with Eduardo, with 21 Savage, with the 48,000 people who are currently in detention right now with their families, their mothers, their fathers, their children, who are waiting desperately for news or for more information about them. We are standing in solidarity with every immigrant family who is here to stay. A budget is a moral document, as Representative Omar said. And if we look at what the budget for DHS is right now, we are failing at that moral test. We have an agency that is bloated and unaccountable. Its budget has doubled since its creation in 2003. It's out of control. It can't answer basic questions about the well-being of people in its custody. There is no reason that it should be receiving more money in this moment. We need to be cutting these budgets. We need to not be giving them more money.
That's right.
Now, a budget's also a political document. And we're in the middle of a cynical, cruel, hateful gambit by this administration to demonize immigrants, to push a hateful agenda through the budget process. And we need to take that as it is. We need to recognize they've lost this political argument. Donald Trump ran on demonizing immigrants in the last election, and he lost big time. He tried to shut down the government to accomplish his goals. He lost again.
That's right.
There is no reason that we should let him get what he wants through this budget process when he's already made his case every way he possibly can and he has lost. The truth is clear. Americans stand in solidarity. They do not want this funding to go through. They do not want the conference committee to be moving this forward. This is not how we do a budget. We need to be cutting DHS's funding, not increasing it. So we're proud to stand here today in solidarity with our partners at United We Dream, at Detention Network, and to say not one more dollar for the wall, not one more dollar for immigration detention, for deportations, for putting children in cages. This has to stop. It has to stop now.
Good morning. Good morning. My name's Ronna Epting. I'm with Move On. I stand here in many respects this morning as an individual, as a daughter of an immigrant mother, and as someone who's been incredibly outraged over the way this administration has handled our immigration debate in this country. Outraged because over the last month or so, our president has put our society in a situation where we're debating in our homes whether we save the lives of immigrants and asylum seekers or whether we allow federal government workers to get back to work and get paid. We shouldn't have to choose.
That's right.
What is this weird dynamic that he's set up? This is not America. This country is about us taking care of one another, about creating a place where we all can thrive, where people live with dignity and hope. I'm outraged because he has called into question the very legitimacy of immigrants, asylum seekers, daughters and sons of immigrants, the very legitimacy of us standing here on this land. But I'm also here representing millions of Move On members across this country. Some of them immigrants and asylum seekers themselves, and we continue to stand strong against what we see as the most hateful attacks on this community that we've ever known. As a Move On community, we have generated tens of thousands of calls to Congress. We've organized massive day of action against family separation. We've rallied for permanent protections for Dreamers and more, and we will continue to fight and stand strong. And we all know this is about more than just a wall.
That's right.
This is about what a wall symbolizes.
That's right.
And the dangerous policies and ideology it is constructed to prop up. A hateful anti-immigrant agenda that Trump and the Republicans continue to perpetrate. And they work so hard to legitimize, using outright lies, exaggerations, and distorted logic to appeal to division and fear.
That's right.
He has broken our immigration system. He's, as many folks have spoke this morning, he's intentionally preventing legal immigration and asylum seekers from safe refuge, turning them away at the border, making it much harder. He's seeing to it that innocent human beings, mothers and children, are assaulted with tear gas. He's stoking fear in the heart of Americans and changing the very framework by which we're having a conversation about immigration in this country. We ask that our members of Congress refuse to debate or negotiate on his false facts and false terms of what this is about. Democrats must stand strong and commit to the following. Number one, cut funding for ICE and CBP and reject the wall. Number two, hold these agencies accountable. And number three, no more shutdowns.
That's right.
If that can't be done in the conference negotiations, then pass a clean, continuing resolution to keep the government open. Do not give in to Trump's tantrums.
That's right.
We are called upon to create an America that lives up to our values. That's what people voted for in 2018. They voted for an America that welcomes and encourages all walks of life, that creates opportunities for everyone to thrive, that believes that we all have dignity and respect and a place where we can be proud of the community we've created. Thank you, everyone here, for all of your leadership and all of your bravery and your courage. I am completely humbled to stand here with you today. And thank you, Congressman Presley, and all of those that showed up today and that are doing the hard work in Congress.
did great.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm
moving over to the
I don't come into town all the time.
Oh, did you? Where?
Okay, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm in North Tennessee. Right here in North Tennessee. So anyway, we'll get together.
Y'all were amazing!
Thank you so much.
Can we take a selfie?
Yes, you wish you could.
Si son de United We Dream, por favor vengan para aquí. If you're from United We Dream, please come this way. Please, thank you.
Still.
Angel! Mary, come on, take a picture.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come out and see it for myself.
Come on here. Here, Angel.
Oh, thank you.
I can take it on my
Can I get my dome shot?
Oh, I'm sorry. Friend.